and finding out whether the project, the Tata Nano project, is actually sustainable or not. So first of all, I'd like to take you through the concept of Tata Nano, how it actually originated. So Ratan Tata, what he found out when he was traveling in the streets of Delhi was that he saw a person in a scooter with his family, and it was raining, it was drenched, and he saw that a lot of accidents that happened were on two-wheelers. So he wanted to provide customers, provide consumers with an option of a car which was affordable. He also identified that the emerging middle-class families were increasing in India, so that is why he presented with the idea, and he came up with the idea of Tata Nano. This Tata Nano, when it was introduced, it was for an Indian currency of 1 lakh rupees, which is equivalent to 2,500 US dollars. About 2,500 US dollars, which is very, very much cheap. It is actually the price for a DVD player for a Lexington car. Mm-hmm. So for a price of a DVD player in a luxurious car, you can actually get a Tata Nano. So it was very affordable, and many jobs were created by this establishment. However, there were questions regarding its sustainability. So Tata Nano, what it was focusing was cost. It was very important that it be of the minimum cost, and it was, when it was introduced at 1 lakh rupees, it was the cheapest car in the world. So, but however, Tata also made it a point to take into consideration regulatory requirements and acceptable performance standards. It wanted to provide good service as well. Not just a cheap product, but good service along with that. So going with the background, Tata Nano comes from Tata Motors. Tata Motors is a part of Tata Group Industries. So Tata Group is basically a diversified market-focused company. It has over 80 such companies under it, ranging from steel, automobile, tea, software, and automobiles. Tata Group is a huge business in India. Similarly, it is estimated that 200,000 employees are hired and recruited by Tata Group. So this shows us how much employment opportunities this organization is providing to the people. Similarly, Ratan Tata is the founder of this Tata Group and has been successfully leading this global company. India's largest company in commercial vehicle, Tata Motors, in January 2007 launched a four-seater, the Tata Nano, at a mere price of US $2,600. So the Tata Nano, how it's very cheap and easily accessible is because they source it through different suppliers, German suppliers, and they actually assemble it. Some of the locomotive suppliers to be named are Bosch, Continental, and BASF. So into the criticisms, why this was criticized, why there were many researchers arguing that this was actually not a sustainable project. Well, first of all, environmental degradation, exploitation of fossil fuels. If a cheap car was available and people, instead of two-wheelers, will start buying an actual car, there would be a lot of fuel emissions, and a lot of fossil fuels will be exploited, and that will lead to environmental degradation and pollution. So traffic congestion. The place where it was introduced, Delhi, the average speed in rush hour was 10 kilometers per hour. So you can imagine the traffic congestion at that amount of speed. So if Tata Nanos were introduced, and if all the emerging middle-class families were to opt Tata Nano, then the traffic congestion would worsen, and there would be a decrease in the overall productivity of people as well. So these social externalities also should be identified because it comes under sustainability. Public transport job loss. So it was a fierce competition. The introduction of Tata Nano, the introduction of a private vehicle that was really affordable was a threat to the public transport providers, such as the buses, such as the taxis. And one of the major ways how you could decrease environmental degradation is by adopting public transport rather than usage of own private vehicles. So that is why public transport was discouraged, and there was a lot of job loss rates in the public transport, which caused further environmental damage. It has air pollution twice the amount of the safe limit. So the CEO of UN, he says that he's having nightmares about the introduction of Tata Nano, because he cannot imagine the air pollution it might possess in the future. So will Tata Nano actually be sustainable? So the Tata Nano was introduced in 2008 to 2011, and it was a great success. And the reasons why it was accepted and it was actually sustainable was because the company followed Carroll's hierarchy of corporate social needs. So according to Carroll's hierarchy of corporate social needs, it tells us that stakeholders are very important in the business, and although they might not be directly related to an organization's decision, they still are affected by it, and that is why they should be fully considered for the sustainable development. So what this chart actually denotes to say is that, first of all, Tata Nano looks into the economic aspects. It looks into if investing upon an affordable car is actually profitable for the company or not. This is the most important part of the pyramid. Secondly, after these economic parts or the profitability criteria is fulfilled, then it goes into legal. So you have to make a car according to the legal rules and regulations that are acceptable in India. So after legal regulations are met, ethical considerations are given. So is it good if we introduce Tata Nano that many people will lose their jobs? So what do we do about this? We can actually introduce Tata Nanos as private taxis, or we could actually provide a scheme for Tata Nano drivers to provide them with bank loans and actually incorporate Tata Nano as a form of public transport. So after ethical means are fulfilled, then the final, and this is the last one, philanthropic or voluntary contribution, such as building schools, such as building community enforcement groups, women development programs are done. So this is how actually Tata Nano addresses these criticisms, through addressing the problems and also giving full attention towards its stakeholders. Few of the CSR for sustainability, corporate social responsibility that Tata Nano has done to overcome these criticisms is, first of all, restoring ecological balance. As an act to maintain environmental balance, Tata Motors has planted more than 2.4 million trees in Jamshedpur region, according to Bajpai 2001. So plantation of trees is one of the methods of how the carbon emission done by Tata Nano cars is being compensated upon. Likewise, pollution control. Tata Motors is the first company that actually pioneered in European pollution standards. That means that a certain level of pollution that is accepted in the European standards is what is used by Tata Nano as well, which means fuel efficiency as well as less carbon emissions. Employment generation. As we all know, although there might be criticisms, hundreds and thousands of employees are being employed by Tata Motors alone, and Tata Group alone has been named the biggest employer in India for hiring employees. So a lot of opportunities and a lot of social benefits have been included here as well. Economic capital. Overall, Tata Motors has really been a successful business as it is focused on the stakeholders and also given equal preferences to plant, profit, and planet. Economic aspects, environmental aspects, and social aspects. So by giving equal preference to all of these three aspects, they've come up with an excellent product, Tata Nano, which is a great success in Nepal as well as in India. Thank you.
Sustainability, that is important part of. So what is your recommendation so that they can do something different, something more to sustain it? Because there are criticisms and they are doing something. Can I add something more?
I think one of the recommendations would be like using Tata Motors as a form of public transport, because public transportation was really facing a lot of competition and there was a lot of job loss rates in public transport, and public transport is actually one of the major means of how environmental pollution is handled. So I think I recommend one of the key points in that.
To replace auto rickshaws.
Yes.
That's it from me.
Yeah, the sustainability, you said that this company is actually compensating for whatever environment pollution is producing in terms of different CSR activities. Now, you focus only in Delhi, because India is not only Delhi actually. India is a huge country, and actually Tata Nano is for all over India actually. So that is one thing. Second thing is that because it's a very low cost car, so that means functionally, I would say that functional stability of this car is in question, I guess. Functionally, it is quite vulnerable to rough rides. You can see the very small wheels. Okay? This car is not very popular in Nepal. You could actually observe that. You could actually see very few numbers of Tata Nano car in particular. Road surface is such rough here in Kathmandu, so they can sustain it. These cars can sustain the road conditions. So you could actually question about the functional sustainability of this particular car that will actually pose question into the whole sustainability of the business. So you could actually look into the performance of this particular car.
Yes.
It's
Maybe
low
the
cost.
operations, maybe we're focusing more on TQM and things like that.
But according to what Ratan Tata said, he was actually focusing on reducing costs and also keeping a certain standards of performance.
Yeah.
There is a certain standards of performance used, and I myself had the opportunity of riding a Tata Nano. It's actually quite surprisingly good and surprisingly spacious as well. And for a family of four,
The
it's
point you said that could be used for public transportation. It's still
Yes.
a big question there. Because
Yes.
if you use a taxi, then you can see that in a day you have to run for say 400, 500 kilometers.
Yes.
If you use that private car, it could run for say 20, 30 kilometers per day. So
Yes.
can it sustain that sort of use it?
But I think because as mentioned, it imports parts from German companies such as Bosch, Continental, and they're really reputed German companies. And when German companies are named, they're actually synonymous for quality. So I think the company has kept that in
I think
mind.
we have to actually look into the performance data.
Yeah.
Then we can actually say. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.